Hello everyone, this is Moxie Matt. Thanks for joining me on episode 4 of the Compact Coaster series. For this episode, I'm going to try something a little different. Instead of doing a live commentary, I was going to do a voiceover and speed through the actual build. Hope that you enjoy this video, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments. For this episode, I decided to go with a launched coaster. Not having the lift time in the ride can really boost your ratings, even though it is a little bit more expensive to initially start out. I knew I was going to have to keep this ride pretty short since the building pieces are going to be a little bit more expensive than some of the other coasters. So I was trying to get into a maneuver, a loop or something as soon as I could. Originally, I was kind of thinking if I could loop backwards, that would kind of save on space. And here I was trying to utilize some of the space off to the side, just trying to figure some way to get kind of back to go towards the rear of the station. And since the loop wasn't really working out, I started thinking of the vertical helix and inline rolls kind of things. Since I didn't have enough space to actually do that, and I wouldn't be able to have the boosters at the start, I kind of made my own here into. So at the peak of the loop there, you want to try to get one piece to be equal on both sides. I found that tends to make the smoothest loops. If they're unequal, it kind of ends up looking a little wonky, I think, and it leads for less adjustments in the smoothing tools and such later after you finish the ride. I thought doing like a corkscrew kind of thing over the station would look pretty cool. And it's also a nice way to be compact and save space. I think ultimately I ended up not going with that. I thought it was a little bit plain, perhaps like predictable. So I was trying to make some other sort of inversion that's a little different than just a plain corkscrew. I think here I was trying to actually do like a more non-inverted corkscrew, kind of like the non-inverted loops have that, the quick roll and it flattens off at the top and then comes back down. So I kind of decided to ditch the whole roll idea, and I needed to give it a quick test just to kind of see how much speed that I had going in so I could make my maneuver, appropriate for the amount of speed that I was going to have. Occasionally, I do like to thumb through a bunch of the pre-made loops and rolls just to see if anything kind of wants to naturally fit the ride. The majority of the stuff I do use just the utility piece and kind of custom make stuff. But occasionally, a good pre-made can really be a smooth feature in the ride. So at this point, after trying a bunch of stuff, I was kind of in a lack of direction. So I decided to grab the piece to hold a thrill ride so I could maybe utilize that. Maybe that would help bring some of the creativity out, and so I could figure where to go with this ride. So with this placed down, I knew I wanted to go around it in some fashion. So that's what we're starting to get at here. And I didn't want to just do a standard, like banked turn going around the ride. So I decided to kind of try to have a roll in the turn as well. I've done this with a few of the other rides in career mode. Maybe you've seen them. I do really like the turn roll. It's not a very common thing that I've seen other. So here I'm using the white grid lines that go down to try to make sure I'm coming around the ride placeholder evenly. Even if the ride isn't actually that size, just the fact that I'm staying with those curves will make sure I know that, the ride is cylindrical and it's not op round in any way. Since coming into the station was going to be tight, I decided to just jump to the back of the station and work backwards. A lot of times that can be a more convenient way to come into the station. And since this was a short one, I did want to add a brake section since there wouldn't be time for the ride to kind of naturally lose speed. So coming over that part of the ride there, I was wanting to make sure I get a quick sort of steep slope down so I can get a good hill excitement there. And with that, I think I need to give it a quick test just to make sure I'm not coming over that hill too fast. I think for initial test that came out pretty well. Let's check some of the heat maps here. And it seemed like it was holding a fairly good excitement throughout the whole ride and the nausea never got too crazy. So since all that's looking pretty good, I'm just going to go ahead and quickly button up this ride and make sure that we're not coming around that last corner too fast. Alright, just need to smooth out that last corner just a little bit and then drag it out, not be so tight. Watching this video now, it looked like that was pretty smooth, but apparently I did not think that at the time of the video, so I decided to get rid of that bit and try it one more time to get it a little smoother and maybe not have, such a sudden drop and it be a little more consistent coming into the station. And now we just got to smooth out the rest of the track and make sure there's no real bumps or, any sections that don't flow very well. So we've got a couple red zones for the nausea ratings. So I was going to try to smooth those out and bring them down as much as I can. I think doing these roll turns, some of the nausea is going to be unavoidable. But I do want to try to nail it and get it as smooth as possible. Alright, I'm going to do another check for our excitement ratings. There is a lot of green, but I do want to watch it live. See if there's any small areas where maybe we can just bump it or keep the excitement up through that section a little better. I also think that watching your coasters live with the excitement rating is a really good way to get visual feedback and kind of learn how the coaster looks when it's going through a part that's got a good excitement rating. I think it just helps your builds all together. I decided to drop that whole back section a little bit, and maybe that way it would kind of tie in and come really close to the thrill ride and be a little bit more exciting than kind of hovering over it. I'd also noticed in the run that some of the auto smooth banking had kind of started to bank in a way that I didn't really like, so I had to go back and manually put that banking back where I wanted it. All right, in that brake section for the last turn, I felt like it slowed it down a little bit too much. And on such a short track, that little extra bit could have, kind of bring down our excitement a little bit. And if it's not too nauseating, then I think having the brake section be a little faster is probably the right call. And now it's time to hook up the entrance and exit and see where we landed. And the final results have an excitement of just under 8 and a moderate fear and nausea rating. Here's a quick look at what this ride could potentially look like in a park. I've dropped in an actual ride where our placeholder was and added a little bit of scenery. Most of the scenery here is pre-made stuff or things that could be added really quickly. After a day or so of thinking about it, that last section with the regular brakes going over the station was really bugging me that there was no supports and it was just kind of floating up there. So I decided to come back and make a quick edit so that the path doesn't cross over the station. That way we've got our supports and it just seems to tie in the look a little bit better. Like in the original build, I spent a fair amount of time trying to get this turn real smooth and just right, as well as the brake speed coming in so that we're not hurting the excitement and not going overboard on the nausea or fear ratings. The other thing that I decided to do was increase the station by 1 so that they would have 4 cars instead of 3. This will help traffic flow a little bit smoother through the ride and get guests on and off faster. Thanks for joining me on this episode of the Compact Coaster series. As always, the link will be in the description for this ride so you can download it and add it to any of your parks. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. If you have any suggestions or requests for specific coasters that you would like me to try to fit into this series, just let me know in the comments and I'll work it in. Let's take this coaster for one more ride and I will see you guys in the next episode.